Hello everyone, welcome to the Ginger Snaps era of discussing the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise for you guys in a very blunt way. I'm your host, Steven Harrold, and in today's video, I'm going to be giving you guys my review, or re-review, of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which was released in 2022. So Chris won't be actually joining me on this episode because his thoughts after we had given the review 2 years ago is still the same. So there's nothing for him to really much discuss about this at all. So he won't be joining me in this video. So I know for a fact there have been some changes with me, and I know for a fact when it comes to doing these reviews and not having someone else with me for them, it is going to be one of those things where I get more in depth with how I usually do it with all my other videos. And of course in 2022 there was a lot of, it was basically the spoiler-free review where I was in depth with it, and of course I did my spoiler-free review for it as well. But it's time to give a third try with this Netflix film and see if it holds up and is a worthy entry to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise. So without Chris here, it's time for me to give you guys my re-review of Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2022. So when it comes to the story of this film, we have these four teens who are basically entrepreneurs or influencers who are going in Texas and buying this town of Harlow. Now, they're buying it because basically it's a dead town that, you know, nothing has happened, and there's basically no one left except for this old lady who runs a orphanage where there's no kids around except for one person. And they happen to stumble upon a very unfortunate event where the person that is also living in the orphanage happens to be the suspect from the murders of 1974 himself, Leatherface. All meanwhile, Sally Hardesty has returned in this film and is now one of the deputy sheriffs of the town, and she wants to stop Leatherface once and for all. So, for this story, this is now known as the Legacy timeline, where basically this is a direct sequel to the 1974 film. Now, of course, as we all know, when it comes to that kind of nonsense, it's like, okay, well, you already kind of did this already with 2013's film. But now they're going even a step further with its story being practically almost 50 years later as to what happened in 1974. So for a requel, the story itself just kind of doesn't really make sense. I mean, like, when you really come to think about it, Leatherface basically fled the house after Sally had gotten away, and I guess it was assumed that no police showed up or whatever, like it did in 2013's Texas Chainsaw 3D. And he just ran to this town of Harlow and basically hid in an orphanage this whole fucking time. Yeah, and then of course the entrepreneurs, the fucking influencers who are trying to make a difference and, you know, basically come into this town and buy it outright. It's one of those stories which was like I can't say it's like, you know, Leatherface, where, you know, it's clearly not supposed to be a Leatherface film, but it was like, is this what they were really trying to do here? This is the best they got for a story? So the story in this film just really just takes a nosedive. When it comes to the protagonist of this movie, it's, you know, still not the greatest. First, we'll start with Ruth, who is the future wife of Dante. There's really not much to her character. I mean, she just decides she's going to go help the police out and go with the old lady who is dying because she was kicked out of her fucking house. Yeah, if this movie just fucking, if they didn't just kick her out of her fucking house, there wouldn't have been a movie. Anywho, so yeah, she dies and nothing character. Then we have Dante, who is, I guess, the main backer of the biggest influence on making sure that the town of Harlow is available to be purchased. He's not too bad of a character. I mean, like, we do get him killed pretty quick, right? And, you know, we do spend a lot of time with him, and he's not bad of a character, so I don't mind him. And then there's Lila, who is the younger sister of a character we're going to get to real quick here. She is a school survivor, a school shooting survivor. And, you know, she's young. She's probably pushing 17, 18, maybe. She is not very stoked about moving to this decrepit town. She wants to go back home to her dad. And, of course, you know, dealing with the whole sister basically, like, pushing her into the direction of, like, oh, no more guns. Like, all this kind of bullshit. Like, school shootings shouldn't be happening anymore. She basically is being pulled along by her sister to do this, and she doesn't want to do it. I don't mind her character as much. It's just this whole, let's give her this school shooting victim complex where now she's afraid of guns, but yet let's put a gun in her fucking hand right away. Okay. And then, of course, you just knew that she was going to survive at the end of the movie. Did she have much of an impact with this film? Not really, but I also don't mind her character. She's a meh character, just like Dante. He's kind of a above meh. And then there's Ruth, who's just, you're below meh. You're just whatever. Let's get to the other fucking character. Now we get to Melody. Melody, we're just going to go off the bat and say she is the most unlikable character in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise. I mean, Franklin's annoying. He's one of the most unlikable as well. Melody is basically, the minute she sees the one guy who lives in the town, who owns a shop, who's the contractor for fucking Dante, the minute she sees his gun, like, makes it sound like, you know, like, oh, you gotta understand, like, he's gotta have a small dick if he's gonna carry around a gun in a truck. You obviously compensate for stuff. Like, the fact that she goes there and becomes just this conniving bitch for no reason, and then every single time she seems to stare at someone and has a problem with them, she scowls at them. She is the most unlikable character in this whole fucking movie. I mean, we see her get covered in shit. We see her basically have to run from Leatherface. And we're hoping for her to die at this rate, because this is that one character that I feel like when it came to the ending of this movie, there's a certain test screening where she survived, and people didn't fucking like that. I haven't heard one good thing about Melody at all in this fucking film. And even when I did the review 2 years ago, I said I fucking hated her. Now rewatching it again, I still fucking hate her. I can't stand her. Melody is definitely one of the worst characters in the TCM franchise. And of course, our last protagonist of the movie, the one that we're supposed to really care about, is Sally Hardesty. Not played by Marilyn Burns, because she had sadly passed away, but played by a completely different actress, and it kind of fucking shows. The idea of having Sally Hardesty in this movie, who is now a Texas Ranger, hunting down Leatherface. Does this sound a little familiar? This almost sounds like, you know, Laurie Strode from Halloween 2018. Doesn't that sound a little bit familiar? Yeah. Sally Hardesty is coming back here with this vengeance from what happened to her almost 50 years ago. And for the life of me, even rewatching this movie, this actress who gives this performance for Sally Hardesty, it just makes no fucking sense. Sally Hardesty was never meant to be like a Laurie Strode type character. I mean, like, in the Halloween franchise, we saw Laurie Strode how many fucking times in the whole fucking franchise? She was there in Halloween 1, she was there in Halloween 2, H2O, Resurrection, 2018 Kills and Ends. The fact that we never saw Sally Hardesty in even Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 Why was it such a big deal to bring her back in this movie? Obviously, it was just like a copy and paste of what Halloween 2018 did with Laurie Strode's character, and I'm sorry to say it, I know the actress does a fine job with her performance, but sadly enough, Sally Hardesty is not that final girl material to be like a Laurie Strode that hunts the big bad antagonist, and she is just not worthy of that, especially since she fucking dies in this damn movie. And it's like, what fucking waste of potential that was. Now we come to the man himself in this movie, Leatherface, played by Mark Burnham, who I managed to see at the Calgary HorrorCon last year, actually. He was there with James Hugh Courtney, and I thought it was kind of funny. You know, James Hugh Courtney, Michael Myers, Mark Burnham, Leatherface. That was pretty cool. He is portrayed by a guy who's obviously in his, late, 50s, right? Late 50s, 60s. Leatherface is basically a guy who's pushing 70. And he has been hiding out in this fucking goddamn orphanage with this girl for this whole time. And once she dies, he then cuts her face off and wears it. So that's new. And then, of course, we have him with his physicality. We have him with how he performs his kills and how he just maneuvers around things. I mean, like that face-off between him and Sally, he is not even moving around like he's pushing 70. And the fact that he moves around like basically a Michael Myers type character just baffles me. I mean, this isn't the same you could tell this is not the same Leatherface from the first film, which this is supposed to be a direct sequel from. Totally different portrayal. And then, of course, just his look, his physicality, his presence. His presence is obviously felt in the movie of like he's a very dangerous person, but for someone who's pushing 70, he shouldn't be able to fucking run after Lila in top speed and catch up with, like, stay on pace with her. Who, this Lila is basically fucking, like, 150 pounds soaking wet. Leatherface is about 300, plus holding a 50-pound fucking chainsaw. How the fuck is he able to fucking catch up to her so quick? I don't know. The betrayal, not too bad, though. I will say that. The betrayal is not too bad. It's just with the script and how it was portrayed, for the fact that this is supposed to be a sequel to the original film, just makes no sense. If they didn't have that tied into it, where it's a direct sequel to the second film, I'd probably buy it. But it's not even remotely a good enough performance that harkens back to that original, because both Leatherfaces in those films from 1974 and 2022, they don't match up very well. The one thing about this movie that absolutely entertained me, though, is the gore and the kills. The gore and the kills in this movie are top notch. It's basically, if I was to do a top 10 best kills in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise, a few of them would actually make it on this list. They would make it on that top 10 list, for sure. I mean, we have the guy who is, the redneck, whatever, who tries to save Melody, and he gets his knee bashed in by the fucking sledgehammer, and he gets his face caved in, his whole fucking skull's caved in with that sledgehammer. Leatherface does not hold back in this movie. Carnage Candy is way up there. And of course, we see even Dante, who gets fucking, his cheeks slashed by the cleaver and everything. He's just basically bleeding out and choking on his own blood. But the one thing about this movie, before I even get to that, of course, like I mentioned, Sally Hardesty dies in this fucking movie, and it makes no fucking sense to even put her in here. I mean, like, Leatherface gets stabbed by her, right? Just gets stabbed by her, and he just fucking stabs her back with the chainsaw, lifts her up, revs that fucking thing, he's getting covered in blood, and just chucks her. Like, simple enough as it is. But the one thing about this movie that actually was the biggest improvement that actually kind of saved it for this film is the fact that after how many films, how many, which one actually had a massacre in it? It just happened to be this one. That whole bus massacre is the only time in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise, which, you know, has the word massacre in it, literally features a massacre in the film. And that whole bus sequence is a fucking gore fest to watch. It's amazing to see all the people getting cut up in so many different fucking ways. The blood spewing. I will say that the whole try anything you cancer, bro, fuck that guy, whatever. But other than that, when it comes to the gore and the kills, especially Mellie's fucking death, oh boy, I was fucking happy to see her get decapitated. So the gore and the kills in this movie, just save it as a worthy film. Now, with all those positives, especially when it comes to the gore and the kills in this movie, and a little bit when it comes to Leatherface's portrayal in this film has a lot of fucking problems, needing to be expressed in so many fucking ways and avenues, especially with the flaws and the plot holes of this film. It's hard to ignore. I mean, Sally Hardesty comes back after being traumatized in 1974, which makes no fucking sense that she is now a Texas Ranger. We have a whole entire town that is just never mentioned in previous films before, and Leatherface just happens to be in this orphanage. Why the fuck did he not been caught earlier? Whatever. And then, of course, you know, we have just the weird coincidences. I mean, like, Sally Hardesty basically got like, her spine's cut up to shit, but she had enough life left in her to pop a shot off at Leatherface again with the shotgun. And, of course, the goddamn fucking school shooting thing and, like, the anti-gun fucking thing, that went nowhere. Then you get the flashbacks to when Lila was a victim at the school shooting, and we see the same flashback 3 fucking times. And it's like, did you guys not shoot anything else? You just told her, just lay on the floor. There, yeah, we're done now. And then, of course, you know, just the whole presence of the, you know, having to hold the gun, and is she going to be able to do what she can't do and she's afraid to do? And then she holds the gun and whatever. The movie itself, just when it comes to its ideas and certain plot holes, and especially this whole Confederate flag thing, like, they spent too fucking much time on this Confederate flag. Like, who gives a shit? Yes, it's from a different time, a time that is not very acceptable, but did we really need to have, you know, woke culture or Gen Z, Gen X bullshit in this fucking movie for a Texas Chainsaw Massacre film? We didn't need it, and sadly, they had it, and it sucks. Back in 2022, when it came to this fucking film, of course, you know, I had some hopes with it, and it was actually not too bad my first time viewing. The second time watching it, it was a little bit of a downer. It's like, yeah, this movie fucking sucks. But then rewatching again, of course, when it comes to the characters, nothing has changed. Not a single fucking thing has changed when it comes to the characters. Leatherface, it's like, I get it. It's a different portrayal. It's not bad for what it is. But, of course, you know, it's just, it doesn't match the 1974 film. The carnage, the kills and the gore in this film are among the best in this franchise. And that's what basically saves this film from being a total fucking disaster. But, of course, there's a lot of plot holes in this film. Sally Hardesty is wasted. And, of course, as we all know, and I've already touched on this before, it is a blatant copy and paste ripoff of Halloween 2018, and it shouldn't have done that. Now, for the last entry of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise, of course, this film was released on Netflix, so if anyone wanted to fucking be able to own the collection of Texas Chainsaw Massacre films, you have to wait until someone buys the rights for this film in order to do that. But when it came to the quality of this film, it's not bad, but fuck, it could have been a lot fucking better. And that's where I have to stick with it. Anyways, for my rating. Now, back 2 years ago, Chris had given this a 4 out of 10, and I gave it a 5 out of 10. For this re-review, it's only going to get a slight upgrade. So, for my new rating, I'm going to give the Texas Chainsaw Massacre from 2022 a 5.5 out of 10. So guys, tell me, what you think of Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2022? Let me know in the comments down below. If you like this video, make sure you also hit the thumbs up and subscribe for more content. And don't forget to hit that bell notification so you get notified about all the other videos coming out on the channel. Especially when it comes to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise. Now in the next video, we will be giving you our worst to best ranking of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise. Until then, this has been the Ginger Snaps here. My name is Steven Harrold. I will talk to you guys later. And remember, Saw is family.